Okay, I was actually going to do this one in a few weeks after I went through several more of the things that I've actually gotten into that helped me in my recovery and everything. But after watching the recent Quackaholics Anonymous video, I'm actually going to be doing this week, and it's on how and why I left AA, and I can't really support that organization anymore. Back in 2016, was when I first got sober, and I had been going to AA for several months already when I got to the point when I finally had enough of my own bullshit and everything, and I decided to get sober and everything. And at the time, I was only aware of AA, and I was not aware of like the other programs such as Smart Recovery. And so, like I said, at the time, since I was done with my own bullshit and everything, and I was ready to get sober, well, hey, this is the program. I gotta get into this and do this and everything, and this is the way you do it and everything. So I started getting into what they suggest, which if you talk with anyone and go to meetings long enough, you realize they're not suggestions. They're, hey, you must do them. No one will ever say well, I never did take these suggestions, and I am still sober and everything. So the blowback you will get from saying something like that is pretty much astronomical, off the charts. On immediately, if you said that in a meeting, everyone that would share after you would say would have to pretty much dig into you and say why they are grateful for all the supposed suggestions that they state in the big book and the whole literature and the culture of the program and everything. So diving into what I thought was the way to get sober and everything, I started doing the whole what they would suggest, oh, you got to do 90 meetings in 90 days, you got to do the steps with the sponsor, you got to read the big book, do service work. And so I started really getting into that and everything. And first thing I did was obviously I got a sponsor. So, oh, hey, you got to do this and everything. So you get into that mentality of that you have to do this when pretty much when you're coming off that alcohol and or drug induced brain fog. You're like, oh, hey, everyone suggests this, so I might as well do it and everything. So like I said, I got a sponsor, started doing the steps, and I did get involved in service work with a group and everything. But slowly but steadily, as I was getting out of that brain alcohol induced brain fog, I started realizing stuff wasn't necessarily adding up. So the service work, the position that I was in didn't work for, wasn't really working for me. So I'm like, this is not helping me. So I stopped doing that, and then that was probably about 3 or 4 months in, and then I actually came across the Orange Papers and the videos by Blame the Nile on YouTube. That those were done back in 2009 and 2010, and both that and the Orange Papers are very critical of AA. And so I started posting questions. One of the stats that the Blame the Nile's videos shared was that at the time apparently 70 to 75% of people got sober on their own. And so I posted a question would an AA group ever let them someone of that 70 to 75% got sober on their own, would a group ever let one of those people chair a meeting? And one of the responses oh, hey, you only have to have a desire to stop drinking. Not realizing pretty much went right over their head, not realizing, hey, they already got sober. So you're pretty much saying that they have a desire to stop drinking when they've already done that and everything. And so it was pretty much a progression. So after that, I started slowing back down on doing the step works and going to meetings and everything. I ended up getting a couple part-time jobs. So between the two, I was working probably at least 45, 50 hours a week and everything. And I was only going to a couple meetings and everything. And so in the fall, I ended up getting a text from a sponsor, and he was under the impression that oh, I started drinking again because if you don't do the stuff, you automatically start or like starting to drink again and everything. So like I was really turned off on that. It's like thinking like, what, we are incapable of like putting down our addiction and getting on with our life on our own and everything. So like that was another thing that like was a big turn off for me. Like there's no like a sense of confidence in that can be bred in the program and everything. So like about a month or two later, I actually came across the Quackaholics Anonymous channel that I mentioned, and like I was watching his videos, and he's like pretty much like right dead on with the whole culture and literature, and they basically hit it right on the hammer on the nail head, saying like, oh hey, look at how like terrible this organization is with all like the abuse and like the and relapses, and how much it pretty much makes you feel totally worthless, because like it's right in like the step one that you have to admit that you're powerless. So it's like in other words, like you got to admit you're completely hopeless with this addiction and everything. So like I started getting into those videos, and like it led me to watch the documentary the 13th Step, which highlights all the abuse that does go on in the rooms and everything. And as far as I know, it may have been at least indirectly uh, supported from like the Carla Breda murder that happened back in 2015. And she was someone who did get involved with a guy that apparently everyone in the meetings in that area knew he was nothing but trouble. But since they had pretty much like an open door policy, which does let predators come and go, and are protected with the anonymity, she ended up getting murdered by that guy. He was, as far as I know, he was arrested, and he actually was convicted of it and everything. So like I'd have to look into it, because it's been like so like now 2022, and that happened back in 2015. So it's been several years. So I'd have to double check and to see if he his sentence and everything. So like that really bothered me, because there's like a bunch of people, and especially women, that came forward and be like, hey look, we were abused, we were taken advantage of and everything while we were in AA trying to figure out how to stop our addictions and everything. I myself was actually like taken advantage once, first in the first few months. Like I had a car, and so one guy, and like, oh hey look, my nephew and I want to go to his girlfriend's in town, like that's 10-15 miles away, you mind giving us a ride? I'm like because with being early on, like, oh hey, we have to give to ourselves freely to other people to help them and everything. And like they were saying like, oh we'll give you gas money and everything. So like what didn't bother me about afterwards wasn't necessarily not getting any gas money. It wasn't it was more of the fact that like, hey, you have a car, you were willing to help us out. There was no thank you or whatever, like or like giving like a favor back to me, like, oh hey look, you just gave us a ride, so here we can do this for you and everything. That's why like at the you're in an easy position to get taken advantage of. So at the time I would have been like oh it's not a big deal, I'm supposed to like give myself freely to help others and everything. But now looking back, it's like, yeah, I was actually taken advantage of that once. So at the time what I did was like, I was like, even though I would not have admitted it, I slowly distanced myself from that person and everything, so I could basically start to see like how easy it is to go into like the rooms and be able to take advantage of people and everything. So like even with me saying this, I might not personally able to do that if I was that type of person, but it would be easy for someone like if I hadn't said anything. Like with me, it would be easy to go into there and actually take advantage of people like for my own personal gain. And the Quackaholics Anonymous was really talking about like how the more time, like the time you build up, like it's based on it's that hierarchy in the group. Like your hierarchy is based on your time. So like if someone has 25 years of sobriety, you're not supposed to question that person. Like even if like they go behind like the Alcoholics Anonymous mentions, like if they go behind your back, you're their sponsor, and you go to say their wife and like tell them all these nasty stuff on their fourth step, which technically like you're not supposed to, but since it's not like there's no confidentiality, like you have like a with a lawyer, or if you go into like a church to do confession, there's no confidentiality clause or whatever, so they can just sit there and blurt out like whatever they want to whoever they want. And like the whole like idea, like again, like if you don't do what the program says, then you're doomed to like what they say in the literature, like jails, institution, and death and everything. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts on how you do it. You have to. It's not suggestions, like it's veiled as suggestions, so that way they can turn around and like even say like, well, hey, look, they didn't take these suggestions. Look, and look at they're back drinking or whatever. So like they can get like on their high and mighty horse and look make them feel people that do take advantage of people, make them feel superior and make them feel good for taking advantage of people. But like the big thing that was stuck with me after, and this happened like over like the first year that I was in, but what stuck in my mind was that like, oh, I have to make meetings in order to stay sober. So like it was 6 months in when I started coming across this stuff and started questioning like everything I saw, and this is the whole nonchalant attitude of members on like oh well, he's questions like, yeah, okay, whatever, we'll just ignore the questions, or like ignore like and so like it was the progression after the first 6 months of like coming across like I said, first it was the blame the denial videos and the orange papers, and like several months later it was like watching the Quackaholics Anonymous videos and coming across the 13th step. And so that was over the first year or so that I was sober and in AA. And unfortunately for me, it took me like 2.5 years to get away from AA, even though it should have taken me 6 months. Like with the SMART recovery, like the whole process is designed to get you mentally and physically squared away with your mind. So like, oh, hey, look, I got myself set up. Like, okay, I got employment. I'm taking care of my physical health. I'm taking care of my mental health. Like, I got a roof over my head. I got food in my fridge, and like, I can get to and from said job and everything. So like, I've built up my life around me and everything, and I can get away from going to meetings and get my support group outside of like an organization. So like I set myself up like with like family members that are going to support me, friends that are going to support me. Like, oh, hey, look, I can see the difference. Like okay, when so and so was getting drunk all the time, he was they were a complete waste of space, pissing everyone off and like always blaming other people, getting into like a victim mentality. Now that they're sober, they're actually starting to like being more goal oriented, looking to like better themselves and their community around them, so they can actually break away from like leave their addiction and like their bad behaviors behind them, not having to be constantly reminded like as like an AA or like you're just one drink away, and that you have to be constantly reminded that even if you have 25-30 years sobriety, you have to make these meetings to be constantly reminded that, pretty much like in the first step, instead of like being completely powerless, you can interpret that as like, oh, you're completely hopeless and everything. So like it's definitely not a program that's designed to build up yourself. You always have to become reliant on the meetings and the people in AA. So like it took me like a whole 2.5 years to get away from AA, even though it should have been like 6 months, maybe a year, if I had known about these other organizations, these other programs, these other ways to get and stay sober and or clean. Now that's so why I usually say I was in AA for 2 years too long. So like I can't change the past, so why I come and do these is so like I can show like, hey, look, there's the smart recovery, which is an alternative to AA. You don't have to do a 12-step program. Like I said before, the smart recovery is a 4-point program, which like gets you out of the meetings and on with your life. Whereas like I said before, AA, like you have to make meetings, and with everything, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. This is the way you have to do it. So like for me, like it was like I said, it was a progression that I had to go through. So like and that's ultimately why I left AA. So I'm hoping that like people can come across this that were in my position. They don't have to necessarily think like well, AA is the only way that I have to get sober. They can like check out like maybe not necessarily smart recovery, but there are others like reach out recovery, rational recovery. There are those that are actually based on science and psychology, not a religious program like AA, which in several states, like especially here in New York State, they've had their the state Supreme Court deemed that yes, AA is a religious program, because like at least here in New York State, it was back in '97, a guy was court ordered into AA, and after getting out of the whole drug court and being forced into AA, he turned around and sued the state for sending him to a religious program, and the New York State Supreme Court deemed yes, it is a religious program, because it has pretty much direct reference to God in at least several steps in its program. And like I've said before in previous videos that like let's take that spirituality, philosophy, religion, or whatever, let's put that on the bookshelf, get your head and mind straight first, and then start figuring out like get your life in order first, and then we can take it off. Whereas like with AA, like this is the way, you have to have a spiritual awakening, you have to do this right here right now, and like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So like I'm hoping that like those are some of the people that I can reach, or the people that are like just starting to get stop their addiction, so they can be like look into like the other programs like smart recovery, instead of feeling like me that they have to go into AA. The other type of people that I'd like to that I'm trying to get to is like maybe like you're like me, and you like for the longest time you've been sitting in meetings and with AA, and you're getting nothing out of them. So like you end up wasting like a couple hours of your day. Like it takes you 15 minutes to get there. Maybe you want to get there like 15 minutes early to socialize, and you do the, like at least in my area, like the after meetings where like you basically walk right out the door, and everyone would always say like, oh, that's such a great meeting. You never hear people say like, oh, I got nothing out of that. And so like I would sit there afterwards and listen, and I'm sitting there thinking like I got nothing out of this meeting, and hear everyone say it's such so great and everything. So like you spend 15 minutes getting there, 15 minutes to socialize before, hour-long meeting, and then 15 minutes after to socialize again, 15 minutes to get home. So you're just, if you're getting nothing out of it, you just wasted 2 hours of your life. Whereas, like in my opinion, you could do like a lot with that 2 hours. You can get a half-hour workout, quick workout at the gym. You can do plus a half-hour yoga class, get in some meditation, and so there's a good like hour and a half, like along with taking a shower after your workout and everything. So less time with the workout and being physically active and everything than wasting your time with a 2 hour meeting that you're not getting anything out. So like I'll reiterate that I want the type of people that I'm trying to get to are the people that are just starting their recovery. They can like look into like they may not like I know like back in like probably like 2014 or 15, in the process of when I was in my getting into my legal trouble because of my drinking, people can I was introduced to AA, and like I was initially like, oh no, this is for me because religion's finished right in your face and everything. So those are the type of people that I'm hoping to get, and the type of people that are sitting in meetings and they've been there for like they could be there for several years or a couple decades, and they're not getting anything out of it anymore. so they can look into like other ways, and so they can kind of set themselves up to kind of get out of the means and on with their life and everything. So like again, I was going to do this in a few weeks after I had gotten through several more of the things that I've come across that are like, actually helped me. But like after watching the latest Quackaholics Anonymous video, it's like, yeah, I better, like, I got a feeling that like I had to get this out this week and everything. So like I'm hoping that, like I said, the people that are like me can get into the other programs and not have to go through all the BS that's inherent in the program of AA that I had to go through and everything. So like next week we should be getting back into like other stuff that I have found very helpful to me and everything. So like till next week.